So, you recently got into Ash Lane, but you're not quite certain if you're doing things right. Well, today we're going to break down the bare bones of what a new player needs to be doing within the first week of their journey. And just generally speaking, if you're fairly new into the game, follow these basic steps. First and foremost, let's get one thing laid down. While the game has many things for you to do or look at, there's a smaller collection of things that you need to be actually focused on. Your primary focus for the first week or so should be playing the main campaign and maybe doing some builds all to the side. It's just that simple. You need to be making sure to grow your collection of ships and gear to be putting on those ships. This is the most important thing to be doing when you've just gotten into things. So focus on that primarily. Complete up to at least World 3-4, and then after that, it is time to grind 3-4 and 3-2. You see, World 3-2 drops both Hear You and Soar You, the first of which can be retrofitted into a very strong carrier, one of the better carriers in the game. But perhaps more importantly, 3-2 also drops Helldiver parts, which is a massively needed plane for pretty much every carrier in the game up until you can start accessing the Gear Lab, which we can touch on that another day. 3-4, on the other hand, drops Kaga and Akagi, a common rite of passage grind of sorts, if you will, even though these two have been a tad power crept by this point. More importantly, though, 3-4 drops parts for what is called the Repair Toolkit, a solid piece of gear, especially for new players. I also recommend playing World 2-3 until you get Shoho, a very solid early game healer who will help you on your journey. Now then, while you are on your way to the top grinding these worlds, you'll be completing your missions found at the top. Let's talk about the ships you want to look out for week 1 and things you need to be doing along the way as you grind. First, the ships. Keep an eye out for Cassin and her sister Downs, as well as Phoenix. Prior discussed Shoho, and you should soon enough have Portland, a very solid early game tank. Also, hopefully, you get some luck and find Yorktown and Rodney along the way. Although, if you have been unlucky in finding decent battleships or battlecruisers, then both Nevada and her sister Oklahoma are fairly solid options to help get you by, as they both have retrofits that make them pretty okay. One very important piece of advice is to remember rarity isn't what makes a good ship. Rather, it is the abilities and the synergies that you make surrounding that ship that truly produce the best results. Now then, with this in mind, let's discuss, in short, fleet composition since we're already talking about ships anyways. There's two primary fleets you need to make, but be sure to level your fleets evenly as that is very important. There is first the mob fleet, which is mostly here to kill everything except for the boss. These fleets are usually focused on efficiency and sustainability, meaning ships that heal each other or self heal through their own abilities are popular options for this fleet type. This is why we brought up ships such as Cassin, Downs, and Yorktown, as their self healing allows them to go through fight after fight to get a good job done. Mob fleets aren't always focused on being full size fleets and instead are usually only 2 to 4 ships instead, depending on the scenario, of course. Next, there is boss fleets. As the name implies, their job is to kill the boss. These fleets do frequent being full sized a bit more often than mob fleets, although that doesn't mean you should necessarily always be using a full sized fleet. Boss fleets tend to be focused on having a really strong battleship that has a good focused barrage to hurt the enemy boss. They'll frequent having a good tank up in the front that can help protect your damage dealers away from the boss's damage. This is why we brought up ships such as Portland for an example, because this is a very good early to mid game tank that pretty much everyone is going to have a copy of, so it's a reliable one to recommend to new players until they start finding better tanks. In other words, ships that are focused on powerful bursts of damage to mow down a strong opponent are popular for boss fleets. Of course, this can vary depending on the boss, but this in general should work out perfectly fine when you're in the earlier stages of the game. While that was a basic idea of fleet comp, anything more complicated can be saved for another video, as there's most certainly some nuances that surely someone will probably end up bringing up in the comment section, as is anyways. But lastly, let's touch on what you should be doing off to the side during those first few weeks of your journey into Azure Lane. First and foremost, any and all gems you acquire for free first go to classroom upgrades always. After that, gems should be going towards things such as expanding your dorm or getting more dock space so you are able to have a larger collection of ships. As doing anything else with your free gems could spell disaster to your overall experience versus others. And I would not recommend spending your free gems on things such as skins, for an example. Don't do that. The other thing is use the crafting system. White and blue boxes can be crafted up and into better purple boxes, which you should always be doing and opening during the early stages of your game to try and get as many chances at least some okay starting gear for yourself instead of having to walk around with white and blue gear all over your ship girls. You can also craft blue and purple skill books all the way up into gold ones, but you shouldn't always craft them into gold books, only if nothing else to make sure that you have enough books to go around and don't end up running your books dry in the early game. Lastly, I just want to bring up, take advantage of PvP. It is just free EXP with essentially no drawbacks. Even if you lose, as far as new players are concerned, it's not really a problem. You'll still get half EXP and you still get some merit and whatnot as well. Don't be skipping out on it, go for it. With all this knowledge in tow, you can now begin to look for good early game ships, know where to find some good gear, and should know how best to spend your gems. This knowledge will help carry you through the start of your Azure Lane journey, and of course, we'll be making more videos through this series to help you and others progress through the stages of Azure Lane. Now, I do want to bring up one quick thing. As a pro tip, shall I say, towards new players, something I highly recommend is to, of course, join my Discord or join other friendly to new player Discords, and simply put, ask an experienced player. As the thing is, it's only so easy to give recommendations for ships and gear because it's a bit dependent on your situation. You never know what types of ships or gear you have and how you might have to adapt to what you maybe don't quite yet have. Asking a more experienced player how to best adapt your fleet and best adapt to your gear loadout is a perfectly fine thing to do, and there's plenty of people out there that are willing to help you with that along your journey. And it can definitely not only make playing the game easier, but as an added bonus, get you more involved in the community along the way. Kind of a win-win if you ask me. So I would highly recommend joining my Discord for that kind of purpose in particular. Other than that, stay safe, stay healthy, and I'll see you soon.